So, this is the last part of exploring Montreal, and this is the mountain episode. So yes, as of me being in more of a central Montreal, I purposely planned on making this the last part, but for another portion of this video where I'm going to showcase the borough of Outremont, I was going to make that a separate part as well. And in that, before showcasing Outremont, I was also going to showcase the borough of Montreal West. But because of a lot of complications, convoluted nonsense, I won't be showcasing Montreal West at all. At least any more than I did in the last video when I was visiting the neighboring / landlocked city of Côte-Saint-Luc, Quebec. This will be the last one. And something very infuriating on top of everything else I've been dealing with recently just happened literally an hour ago. But I'm not talking about that here. In fact, I don't even think I'm going to talk about it until I get to Lévis, Quebec, or Quebec City, Quebec. So, anyway, let me get on with this. Limos are sadly a common sight to see along this main road here that goes along the summit of Mont-Royal. But, well, yeah, it's unfortunate. So, before heading further up, I'm going to showcase my campsite, because this is where I've been since having arrived to the central area of the city, more specifically this portion of the mountain belonging to the district of Plateau Montréal. And I, as of recent, am not the only one here, as you will see, but I'll talk about that in a minute. You can see down here. But my gear is over this way. Now, why did I pick this spot? Well, one, for the most part, it's quite concealed, at least from law enforcement activity, or for most of my time being here, it has been. and because, well, I thought this would be a neat place to check out and stay for the rest of my time in Montreal, considering as well as its convenient geographical location, close to, well, depending on means of transportation, and with how much walking I'm used to getting done from where I explore, close enough to most of the other districts of central and southern Montreal that I wanted to visit. And yeah, it's just been convenient enough, at least, despite trials that I've been enduring. Yeah, there's Camden's bike seat. As of right now, yeah, I'm keeping it with me just as a reminder. Just as a reminder. But utilization of my tarp for Cardi B here has been coming in very handy, as I've found, for the most part, it works against, well, rainfall, at least in terms of keeping my things dry, primarily, at least what I would like to be kept dry during a rainstorm. So, can't really see it through the net. That's been a plus. Now, yeah, my red sleeping bag has gotten soaked quite a few times when it's been days on end of precipitation, and I've had to either air dry it or dry it on the road up here in the sun, or take it at about, well, only 2 times I've had to take it to a laundromat to dry. But it's all held up. Oh, and well, that, forget if I talked about it, but oh, no, I don't think I did. I don't think I mentioned it. When I did some laundry in Villeray, I asked a person who was also there if they had some amount of money, coins, because I didn't have any to do laundry at the moment. I could have withdrawn some, but I was trying to just save a bit, and they at first said no, they didn't, and they apologized, and I said that's alright. But then they asked a little while later, how much do you need? Because I'd been trying to figure out if I should ask someone else or just withdraw it. And so I said about maybe $5 or so in coins to work the washer and the dryer, and they gave me it. They actually were able to find some in their belongings, and yeah, they gave it to me. And they also said, because I told them that I'm homeless, we got into talking, and I told them where I was initially from. They told me where they were initially from. Not initially, they were Quebecois, but not initially from Montreal. And well, they ended up giving me this brand new bag they had that was supposed to be for some amount of carry-ons, mainly digital equipment, but it ended up being too big for the stuff they were using, and they just gave it to me. And I said, really? Well, thank you. It's very kind of you, and it has been very useful for carrying certain things, and I've also been kind of propping myself up at night to some degree with it, but anyway, just thought I'd detail that a bit. And here's my sleeping bag. Now, this, I found this on my tent, shoved under a rock that was placed on top of my tent when I got back from leaving Côte Saint-Luc last night. And you can take a minute to read it. So, I'll talk about that in a sec. But, all in all, I haven't had many troubles from staying in this little area all that much. And it's been quite pretty, as is the rest of the mountain, despite some of my obvious complaints.
Comme on avait dit, je pense que ça nous va direct. Ouais, en fait, le truc, ça serait débile de retourner à l'auberge, repartir au truc. Ouais, bah là, j'ai fait 6h30. Et demain, il y a encore. C'est pas d'installer un peu sur ta demain. Après demain soir, parce que là ça nous fera déjà, on va mettre du temps un peu à descendre. Je pose sur Mont-Royal, on se met une bière, moi je mange un bon bagel.
So, all up here, and as well as down a ways, where I've been staying is the summit of Mont-Royal, or in English, Mont-Royal. And it has a very interesting history to it that ranges from prosperous to destructive. So the island during the colonialization of Quebec was seized, not discovered by, but seized by a man named Jacques Cartier. which they have memorials for him at Condiaronk Belvedere, which is a large outlook on the southeastern face of the mountain that hangs over the downtown area of Montreal. And it's an incredible view of downtown Montreal. In fact, a while ago, I took some photographs from the Belvedere, and as of current, have uploaded them to my Pornhub channel. You can find them, at least I think you can. I was having some issues with uploading, but I believe they're available as of right now in the photo gallery section of the channel. Whoa. It's beautiful. And I will, whenever I can, try and upload them, as I said, in Exploring Montreal Part 9. I will try and upload them to other platforms on the internet as of right now. Damn, even with the low-hanging cloud layer, you can see all the way into Laval from here. Oh, and just another quick mention of my, well, pornography activity. For those of you who watch my channel on Pornhub, yes, right along up here somewhere is where I filmed the video of me masturbating on top of this mountain. Wow, that really is pretty. Now, if you took notice in the first few clips of this video, when I was showcasing my campsite in the woods, there were some tree markers and also some metal spikes with markers attached to them jabbed into the ground. You might be wondering why. Well, because starting about a week and a half or so ago, a team of archaeologists actually have been on and off repeatedly coming up and down the mountain, and they've been by hand. They were a small private organization, research organization. They've been excavating just pockets of dirt and sediment on that face of the mountain, looking for small artifacts of an indigenous group that supposedly used to live, or at the very least have activity and would frequently come up the mountain. Now, why do I say supposedly? Well, I ended up asking the archaeologists. Well, one, I at first didn't know they were archaeologists, and I asked what they were doing, just out of curiosity, because I thought they might have been municipal workers, maybe environmental conservation workers at first, but they told me who they were and what they were doing, and I held some conversations with a few of them as I would come up and down the mountain during my time in the last week and a half being here. And they told me that what they were digging for were the artifacts, small tools mainly, and what they had found were old clay, stone-crafted plates, hammers, mallets, maybe some chisels, pots, things of the sort. I think maybe one of them also said they found some arrows. But they told me that here on the island of Montreal, there used to be an indigenous group called the Hochelaga. In fact, one of Montreal's districts, a borough to the southeast along the St. Lawrence, is named after them. It's just called Hochelaga. And there apparently used to be, not on the mountain, but closer to the modern Montreal borough of Hochelaga, a village settlement of these peoples. And when the colonialists came, in terms of French colonialists led by Jacques Cartier, when they landed on Isle de Montreal, they had encounters with various First Nations groups that were off of Montreal Island and off of Jesus Island. So the interesting thing that the archaeologist told me was, when the European colonialists got here, there were no indigenous people that they could find living on the two islands in the greater Montreal area. They ended up interacting with indigenous groups off the islands that were close to the modern day greater Montreal area. And these other groups told them that there used to be an indigenous tribe that lived on what is now modern day Montreal Island, called the Hochelaga. But apparently, no one was, or at least even the various other groups that live close to the island, which anthropologists seem to have pieced together that most likely there are many that were descendants of members of the Hichilaka who migrated off the island. But still to this day, no one actually clearly knows exactly why they disbanded or where the Hichilaka entirely went, or at the very least what members that joined other tribal groups, who exactly went where, basically, and specifically why they even disbanded in the first place. And no, interestingly enough, as I said, it wasn't because of the colonialists, as they got here after the Hichilaka were gone. So, and in terms of activities up here on the mountain, the archaeologists told me for years from various digs, which in more modern times, thankfully, involved indigenous group members from surrounding nations. The digs uncovered tools and equipment that was buried under the dirt here on the mountain, most likely having been used by the Hichilaka peoples. But even so, in regards to the mountain, they haven't actually been able to find complete proof as to any permanent settlements or stationments set up for activities here on Mont-Royal. But here, actually, let me get a drink real quick. I'm thirsty. So, point being, despite there being evidence of the group being here, no one truly knows where they went. In terms of their activities on the mountain, kind of just vanished. It's kind of apparently a local anthropological mystery to history. It's just sort of unknown right now. And the group, the archaeologists that were here, which consisted of those who were of various indigenous Quebec members and those of Métis ethnicity, that's, well, they were apparently, I talked to another member of the archaeological dig team, that they were hired out by the municipal government for reasons that I'm fairly certain are, as typical, performative. They were hired out to do the dig, but they weren't working for, well, they weren't part of city governmental work. They were a private organization. But all the artifacts they were collecting were actually going to an off-island indigenous reserve, I don't know what specific one, for further research by members of the community on the reserve, which I thought was fantastic. And though, yes, in that regard, minimalist effort on the government and its corporate lobbyists to pretend that they care about any form of reconciliation. But either way, well, I thought that at the very least was beneficial. So all they've said, at last I spoke to them, still all they found were just some fractured, broken, fragmented plates, some cups and pots, and other various digging tools, carving items, things of the sort. But I haven't seen any of the archaeologists in the last 4 or so days. Might be because I've been waking up, well, later, closer to the afternoon, and then leaving and then coming back past midnight. But, well, maybe I'll see them again before leaving. And, well, here we are, Kandiaronk Belvedere. And, well, I'll just let you take it in for a second.
No, I've been by foot, but never by bike.
I actually did for the first time in like ever. And then you could, yeah, last week.
Oh yeah, so good. Ah, nice.
Yeah.
No, I also know.
I know, I was just
Okay, but that's not the word.
well, I mean,
Well, yeah, but I don't. Yeah, it was not technically. Yeah, I think it was.
Wow.
I have something like there was a special event last week, but I might miss it.
yeah, cool. And what are some of your like favorite places that you go?
I would say that I really enjoy backyard. Yeah. Well, I don't have a favorite place. It's more like that's because
Okay.
to go.
The branch is just in front of
I see the view every day.
Very nice.
I mean,
What about restaurants?
want it up the stairs every day.
But it's the same.
It's for the view.
I have like plenty of.
That side.
Honestly, I cannot choose. I have plenty
Park your car,
of.
pay for it.
Nah, I'm good.
Tukuyomi for ramen. Tukuyomi.
Oh, no.
Yes, specific ramen. You have like 3 different ramen.
Another like 1,000.
And I think you have like maybe 2
Also like another like
so for ramen, this one is very good. There was another one that I've been really excited about.
You're not nothing that my friend with a youth.
Yesterday. This is a lie. This is a lie as well. I'm not sure what that's depicting entirely. This is also a lie. This is probably truthful, but it doesn't represent anything good. Okay, this is an old map of what was the abandoned Hochelaga village, most likely. Okay, this is most likely also truthful, but not anything pleasant the way it's being portrayed. Okay, and I think this is Old Town Montreal. Okay. This looks like it could have been accurate, but it's destructive on both ends, but in terms of how it's most likely portrayed, yeah, no, they didn't just viciously attack them. Not at all. I claim this is more so an attempt at self-defense. Well, this is the original geographical territory of the United States for its national expansion. Don't know why they have a photo of it here. Well, not a single thing on that plaque memorializing Jacques Cartier was truthful, except for the part about him naming the mountain Mont-Royal. And yes, apparently, the city deriving its name from this name, the mountain's name, that he titled it. So yeah, because, well, Montreal, or in Quebecois French or Quebecian accent, Mont-Royal, is derived from Mont-Royal. Now, I don't know why specifically Mr. Cartier named it that, and I have no clue who named the city after the mountain and why specifically they chose to name it that, and made it a derived name and didn't call it something like Mont-Royal City. Not sure. But yeah, that was an interesting fact I also learned. But in terms, just last bit about the vanished Hitchaloga peoples. Well, no, he didn't receive help from them in making his way up the mountain, as they were gone by then. It would have been if he received help, or more likely followed the directions and took after and completely listened to what the indigenous peoples from around the island were telling him about trekking up it. It would have exactly that. It would have been the people groups that were around the island that may have at some point down the line descended from the Hitchaloga. I believe the archaeologist told me there's evidence that from, I guess, what was found at the abandoned settlement below the mountain on the island, that there was evidence of it being there for at least 8,000 or 9,000 years before the Europeans arrived, which that's a very long time. So yeah, another interesting bit of information. So, yes, you also have seen there is, in fact, a police station up here on top of the mountain. So, let me quickly mention at where I'm situated, camp-wise, the little homeless settlement that has developed there as well. So when I got here, the spot that I had picked in the forested area, well, I was the only one there for a good chunk of time. For most of my time being camped out on the mountain, I was the only homeless person where I was living there. And then about as recent as really a week or so ago, I noticed a couple other tents near where I was, in the same patch of woods. So went over to check it out, and I spoke to the individuals who were camped there, and I've been talking with them on and off for the last few days when I've been able to, and they're very nice people. And they one of them had done quite a bit of traveling themselves for quite some time, and I told them about how I'm trying to make my way up to Iqaluit Nunavut, and they made sure to let me know that for whilst I'm here, if I ever need anything, to just let them know, because, well, we've just been next door neighbors for the last little while. And I ended up, after coming back from my excursions in St. Henry, giving them some money to do laundry because they wanted to wash their clothes. And they said that they wanted to try and pay me back at some point, but I obviously said, no, you don't have to. I don't want you to. But they said, no. And they told me, here, take my number. And so I have their number now. Call and text them. And they said, just shoot me a text, and if you have an email, shoot it to me, and I'll try and e-transfer you what funds I can at some point. And hell, if I have to mail it to you in Nunavut, then I'll do so. And well, it was very nice of them. But as you saw in the note earlier, we are being evicted from the area by the city because this mountain is a high profit machine for the tourism industry. The mega corporate tourism companies and agencies have advertised the hell out of the place, and various tour buses come up and down the mountain all the time, as well as the municipal transit system comes through here too. And I've noticed that in the downtown area, and mega corporate branches of various companies have advertisements and paradeals, obviously, with the tourism agencies that operate all through here, and mega corporate real estate agencies that own up and have sold off the land to ultra-rich landlords that allow for other corporate entities to place their businesses here and allow the tourist sector to come through. And for various, as you saw in the chateau there at Kandairong Belvedere, food products to be sold, which belong to, are manufactured by and sold, distributed at various mega corporate grocery retailers. All of it is paradeal after paradeal after paradeal after paradeal. Screw it, I'm going now. And yeah, this mountain has been turned into a money machine for them. And so anyway, for us living there, staying in those woods, and no doubt the private landowners, maybe those who operate the cemetery up here, because by where we are, there's a facility that's, well, they operate the graveyard. Maybe them, I'm not sure. But whoever, they sent in the police, had their government lackeys, or they themselves who are politicians, send in the cops to warn us. I didn't actually speak with the police directly myself, but I saw them one day. And when talking with the other homeless who were up here with me, they told me that, yeah, they were here before as well. They told us that we have this amount of days to get our stuff together and leave. Otherwise, we're coming in with a cleanup crew and we're kicking you out and we'll destroy your things. Obviously, they didn't say that verbatim, but that's what they're doing. And apparently, I found this out when I first got to Plateau Mont-Royal, that a few years ago, there was actually a larger homeless settlement on the mountain here somewhere. I never found out, or haven't yet, found out where specifically it was, but it was for, well, homeless gatherings, for tents and sleeping areas and things of the sort. It was a very large tent city somewhere on the mountain, and it had been there. I don't know what it was called either, if they named it anything. The settlement had been there for about 15 years or so, with harassment from the police, but nothing major other than that. But then, in the last decade or so, I believe it was around all the way till the 2010s, the municipal government said, all right, you all got to get out of here. You have to move. We're done with you. And there was uproar about that. And they came in one day. They gave them an ultimatum for when they had to leave. And then just the day came, and those who didn't move their things out of there quick enough, they literally this might indicate that the little tent city was, well, the tent city, not little. The tent city was closer to the base of the mountain somewhere, as they came in with dump trucks and threw all remaining tents, sleeping bags, wagons, carrying items, they threw it away. They crushed it. Police knifed tents that were still there of people who were trying to move out. Like, they weren't even, apparently, they weren't even resisting, resisting eviction. They were trying to move. law enforcement will probably claim different, but from what I've heard, they were trying to move, and they just like, fuck it, destroy it. And they got away with it. And yeah, the homeless colony was destroyed. And apparently, since then, most of the homeless community closer to the mountain have kind of been avoiding it for the most part in terms of setting up camp. But so I heard all this, and either way, I decided to try staying up here myself, hopefully, and thinking hopefully the police won't just come in and tamper with my stuff, which they haven't. Me personally, and I'm just realizing something interesting. For my whole time being here in Montreal, I've never once been harassed by police majorly. In Laval, I received so much more. I received harassment, a lot of harassment. I was told at frequent points from places where I was staying that you have to move, you have to leave, you can't be camping in this public area, or this is private property, go. Never once here, so I really have picked good hiding spots here. If police did see me, they just didn't care. But, well, now the same cannot be said. And anyway, so I came up here and there was no one else from where I was that I could see, or that I found from where I explored on the mountain in the woods. But then maybe about 2 weeks ago or so, not including the tents of the people who came by to the area that I was in, at certain points around the base of the mountain, I saw some tents set up, starting to be set up in places I hadn't seen them before. And I've heard people come in and out of where I've been staying. Obviously, during the day, there's popular walking paths where I've been, where you could visibly see me. Those out on a run, getting some exercise, those just passing through, tourists. But I don't doubt members of the unhoused demographic have come up the mountain in that area and maybe seen my tent. So I'm wondering, did I do that? Did I unintentionally draw attention to myself from those noticing me being up here? And did many decide then to try camping out again, forming another tent city? I didn't mean to do that, and I don't think that's a problem at all. Hooray, if I helped inspire that. But I'm wondering if that's why so many more homeless have been camping out on the mountain's landmass. I'm not sure. But regardless, we're being asked to leave now. And I have walked to an area that I haven't been to before on the mountain. Oh wait, Oh. Oh. Okay, yeah. Never mind. Right here is Westmount. Oh, great. I have been here before. Oh, I haven't been here before, but I've been down there and walked below this more, Central European style building. Oh, lucky me. Okay, so that sermon session that you just heard, and choir, was from a smaller building out below St. Joseph Oratory here, which I've been here before, as you will have seen in a previous video, and this being the last time. But as for what's down below it, well, welcome to Outremont. Which is in complete contrast to Westmount, a predominantly impoverished borough, but a highly diverse borough in terms of varying demographics, ethnically, nationally, sexually and romantically, in terms of LGBT culture, religiously, and gender-wise too, in terms of, again, gender expression. It's very diverse. So it's very it's at the very least nice to see the mixing of groups. On the opposite side, it's directly opposite Westmount, which is not diverse in the slightest. So the district is below the northern face of the mountain, and along this road here going upward, it extends, as you will have seen earlier, where with the apartment complexes that I took some footage of, it extends onto the northern face, and even there, that community, that cluster of apartments is very, very, very financially and infrastructurally under-maintained. And highly suppressed, and as you can see from businesses along here, it's highly gentrified. But you might have also taken notice of a very, very tall and somewhat, I guess at the top, spherical shaped building with its dome being curved. Kind of similar to that of the Oratory Cathedral. And I have no clue what that building specifically is. I saw it before. But all I know about it is that it's on the property of the University of Montreal. And just to detract for a second, actually, this goblin drawing, I've seen that around Montreal quite a bit, especially in the central areas. Plateau Mont-Royal, downtown Montreal, in Villeray as well, specifically in Little Italy, here in Outremont, not just there. But yeah, it's just, I don't know who's doing it or if it's one singular person, what it represents, but it's an interesting thing to see. But so this district houses UFM, which has a particularly famous building in Canadian history, part of its campus facilities, that being Polytech Montreal, or Polytech Montreal. So, if any of you know what I'm referring to there, that's the campus building that had the now second worst mass shooting to happen in all of Canadian history occur at it. Yeah, here we are. Oh, actually it's right here, I believe. Yeah, Polytechnique. No, wait. Did I read that wrong? Nope, Polytechnique, yeah. Just wanted to double check. A mass shooting where a man, student there, who was highly misogynistic, highly aggressively sociopathic, and well, morally inept, sadly, because of trauma endured, and obviously murderous. Well, went into the building, I don't know specifically which one here, with a gun in hand, held, I believe it was 22 women hostage, and the men that were in the room initially, whilst the hostages were in there, were forced out. He let the men, all those of the male gender, go free, or anyone on an identification level who identified as cis male, let them go free. And well, massacred all 22, if I'm remembering the number correctly, of the women in the room. And I'm not sure of what specifically happened to the individual, the shooter in question, if he killed himself, if he was killed by police, or if he was arrested and put through a sentencing of some kind. None of which, out of all the three things I just listed, I am pro at all. But yeah, it was a horrible tragedy. Let me see if I can actually find, I believe there is a memorial site somewhere to the victims. Let me see if I can find it. Okay, I'm just gonna say it. This would be the perfect setting for a backrooms video. No, I mean it. I feel like an entity of some kind is about to pop out at me from some darkened corner in here. Okay. Obviously, this is built half underground into some amount of rock formation, but you know, given the construction and design of everything else, I can't help but feel these very large and spiky rocks were left here for a reason, if you catch my drift.
So it was like
I remember my bill was $64, and I was like, "This is the most I've ever spent on a single meal." Like,
I think you said $90.
yeah, it's a bad restaurant. I got the
Caesar beer?
no, it was dip margarita beer, dip margarita. I mean, you're kind of asking for it then.
Oh, interesting thing about Outremont, or more specifically, Eastern Outremont. It houses Ubisoft's Montreal branch. Yeah. I only found this out a few days ago. Yeah, I haven't been inside it. I have no desire to, particularly considering they are a highly corrupt, mega corporate video game production studio and destroy the lives of their programmers and indie developers. So yeah, just thought I'd showcase the fact that they're in the area of the Outremont borough that I've now gotten to. So yeah, that's a bit of information there for you. Okay. I once again am infuriated today as nonsense. Fucking idiotic nonsense. But I'm not focusing on that here. At least I'm not going to divulge into it right now. Again. But I will state plans have once again been altered. I'm not, as I said in the last video, that I was going to record this video, then the day after try and make another one on top of the mountain. Well, that's not going to happen. That video will be made before I leave Longueuil, Quebec. And as for the short video I was going to upload, I'll make that once I get into Longueuil. Because regardless, I am leaving Montreal tonight. I've spent long enough a time here for my liking. But anyway, yeah, it's the next day, if you couldn't tell, just from the fact that it's now, well, there's still some amount of daylight left. It's getting to be dusk. But last night I was going to record footage of this area, but I got preoccupied with other things and was not psychologically in the space to do so. But, well, now I am. And I'll just state, so in terms of what happened at the university, no, I wasn't able to find any memorial to the victims of the shooting that happened. I'm sure they have it there. I'm sure as well that it's mainly performative from the university board administration that implemented it. But regardless, well, I wasn't able to track it down. Oh yeah, I forgot. I saw this piano here before. I tried playing it and found out that its keys were completely stiffened. I'm not sure as to why. But, so I made my way out of the area that the University of Montreal is in, here in Outremont, and over to this neighborhood. So, welcome to Mile End. Now, I will correct something I said in an earlier video that was wrong. In Montreal, Exploring Montreal, Part 7. I had mentioned at a certain point that when I was making my way into Plateau Mont-Royal, that I had passed through Mile End to get to it when I was coming out of Villeray. But I had said accidentally, well, neural misattribution in terms of semantics, that it was the borough of Mile End. Well, it's not a borough of the city. It's not a district itself. It's a neighborhood within the district of Outremont. It's at its easternmost edge. And désolé. Well, yeah, it's if you can tell, just from the footage I've gathered so far right now, it's a very diverse area. And I mentioned in Exploring Montreal Part 7 that when I first came through here, when I was still camped out in Saint Cartierville, I came through biking on Camden. That, well, I had seen that there appeared to be a very high Swiss national populace in the area. And so, well, I just took note of that. And yes, it very clearly is many adorning attire that's reminiscent of more traditional Swiss white cultural attire, and modernized as well in terms of urban Zurich, Geneva, Bern fashion that I've seen, the westernized fashion that I've seen. But as well as, and I was informed of this when making that video by a local in Mont-Royal that I asked, an employee at a restaurant, that there was a very high Jewish population religiously here in Mile End, which I hadn't initially seen when I was making my way through. And now, having explored the area off camera for a few days at a time, I can definitely say that, yeah, I'm very happy to see that there is a high population of specifically more so Hasidic Jews in the neighborhood. Because from what I had also learned from eating at a restaurant in Plateau Mont-Royal called Beauties, that there used to be a high Jewish garment industry in this area of Montreal many decades ago. And there wasn't very much visible. There wasn't a visible amount of a major visible amount of Jewish culture in the Plateau Mont-Royal district. Désolé. But, well, upon coming over here, that, well, quickly changed between districts. And it's compared to the massive, spiritually degrading, culturally oppressive atrocities of the very much internalized prejudice of the residents, the Jewish residents of Côte Saint-Luc, Quebec in the last video. And if you saw the video, what I talked about in regards to it, well, it's at least a pleasant change of pace, thankfully. And as just the same as the western half of Outremont, the area is very impoverished, very lower class. And is under a frequent police presence at many points, sadly. Oh, what's going on? Oh, okay. There was some event going on at a rather famous theater in the neighborhood. Back a ways, you will have seen a huge lineup outside of it last night, and I guess there's also another event or similar event, or hell, maybe just the same one happening on another day, going on today at it. I don't know what it is specifically, but a lot of tourists have been making their way to the area. And, well, it's just compared to the dull, hypocritical misery that I witnessed in Côte Saint-Luc, it makes me a lot happier, is all I will say.
I think I saw.
Silly.
Yeah, I got no extra shirt.
Silly. So, interestingly enough, I actually have not seen very many Israeli or Palestinian Jews living in the area, or those who have more cultural aesthetic common of, well, those who have heritage from the Israelites in the Middle East. More so, it's been those of European Jewish descent. And given that I've been seeing also much Swiss European culture here, probably more Central European Jews from Switzerland or Germany or Austria, France, around, or Czechia, around Central Europe. And the same goes for language in relation to those of the Jewish community. I've not heard actually much Hebrew being spoken. Predominantly, I've heard Yiddish. And for those of you who don't know, Yiddish is a Jewish religious language that's spoken predominantly by and was cultivated within Eastern Europe, where it has its origins. And obviously it has influence from Israeli Hebrew. Blah, blah, blah. I can't talk Israeli Hebrew, but it's a distinct, separate spiritual language. Now, having Jewish ancestry, even though I do, I don't know how to speak a lick of Hebrew or Yiddish. So, yeah. Unfortunate. They'd be interesting languages to learn, and helpful if I was, say, in communities like this. But, well, if I practice any amount at a certain point, I will have to, well, do that at a separate time. I believe, well, my last name being Weinstein, I believe the name Weinstein, if I'm not mistaken, derives from an Austrian Yiddish dialect, I think. Might have to re-look that up. But I'm pretty sure it derives from Austria. Well, as well, obviously, there is a high Christian populace here. And specifically, it seems Catholic and, excuse me, maybe an amount of Lutheran worshippers. But in that regard, I've predominantly noticed more churches built closer to this area of Outremont. Now, I'm at what would be the southeastern portion of the district, and all of this area here, the subdivisions up above, from my vantage point, are on the northern face of Mont-Royal, closer to the base of it. It doesn't extend a large distance. The housing developments where they're built up in place don't extend to a very high point on the mountain in terms of its face, but nonetheless still built up on it. And if you couldn't tell already, the area is ultra wealthy. And is also, once again, pseudo-segregated off from the Mile End neighborhood via large roadways, religious places of worship, down a ways, some parks, and all the rest. And I'm actually going to loop back around to part of the Montreal metro system, one of its entrances, stations, closer to the University of Montreal's campus, to demonstrate that further. And then I'm going to make my way back on top of Mont-Royal to get some shots of the city at Condirong Belvedere during the night hours. And before doing that, though, I will head back to my campsite, pack up my things, leave it in a spot that I can conveniently grab it at once I head back down the mountain, and then head into Plateau Mont-Royal for the last time, and then head to Camel Sutra Strip Club. Yes, I am still going to go to it for sure this time, as it's literally on my way to the connecting bridge between Montreal and Longueuil that I'm going to cross over. And then I'll be out of this town. Alright, so I'm just gonna highlight this quick. In this specific elitist neighborhood, I have actually witnessed some amount of Chinese architectural influence, and also some statuettes, or some that could just be considered full-blown statues, of what appear to be Chinese spiritual creatures. Dragons, mainly. And from the residents I've seen in the area, predominantly white, I can't help but feel, most likely, and maybe not, but probably is, some amount of cultural appropriation. Whether that was the home designers, the architect's decision to put them in, whether it was specifically requested to be put in by, well, the buyer of a plot of land where a house was being constructed, and coordinating with the construction crews and the architects and architechnologists for just seeming exotic, which, in my opinion, would be over-exotification. Now, maybe hypocritical one way or another, but maybe there are those of the Chinese diaspora who practice Chinese spiritualism living here, or members of the white diaspora that have adopted, and though, yes, again, problematically contradictingly, taken on the practice of certain Chinese cultural traditions. That could be a possibility. Even though, yes, the fact that they have amalgamated and held on to as much wealth as they have is against that of traditional Chinese culture. But, well, as I said, I highly doubt it. I guess I'll just briefly state, in the whole discourse of what is cultural appropriation and what isn't, and what is just cultural adoption and appreciation, well, as far as I'm concerned, here's the difference. Cultural adoption / appreciation is when another culture of a different demographic or sub-demographic takes on the practices of another group, the cultural aspects that they have cultivated, held, and passed down from generation to generation. Whether those practices are beneficial socially or detrimental, regardless. And in that, if members of said adopting group acknowledge and socially affirm the fact that they were not the creators of the practices and that they have taken them and they are practicing them now themselves, or amalgamating them into their own cultural practices, then that, and also genuinely adhering to the practices, then that is cultural adoption and appreciation. If a people group has taken the cultural practices of another group and have claimed them as their own with no credence to the demographic that originally created it, and just proclaiming that they are the ones who have always abided by these practices and are the makers of them, well, then that is cultural appropriation. And on, say, a religious spiritual sense, if another group adopts, say, let's, just for, I guess, some amount of simplification, let's say fashion, they adopt or they take and dress in clothing that is sacred to a specific group spiritually and has been deemed as such only religiously being able to be worn by that group if they, well, because of the ties to the religious beliefs. Well, if another group takes that and does, or if the religion or spiritual tradition is not specific, that it has to be for this particular group of peoples, but another group, so someone else of a different background can, based upon the ideals and values associated with the belief, partake in it, either or in this regard. But if another person takes, say, that cultural clothing and does not practice in the belief at all, just takes it because they thought it looked cool, and claims that, yeah, I just wanted it, I don't care about its initial cultural significance, or again asserts that, no, my group created this style of clothing when they didn't, that is genuine cultural appropriation. Which, if you can't tell or the tone of my voice sucks. Okay, and now we're coming out of the ultra-rich area of Outremont to a sports arena and the subway station that is... Ow! Should have ducked lower. Right by University of Montreal. And I, a few days ago, noticed this, which I found to be very interesting. So I'll let you have a look at it. So yes, this private company, Nouvel, I think it says, or Nouvel, is developing an above-surface train transit system that will not only expand throughout the city of Montreal, but also go beyond its municipal borders and off island, specifically in that regard, to, I believe, if I was looking at the map correctly, the cities of Saint Etienne, or Etienne, or Eche, I think that's how you pronounce it, which neighbors Laval to the west, off Jesus Island, outward into, well, beyond Longueuil, all the way to maybe St. Hyacinthe, and then Châteauguay, Quebec, I believe. Which I find very interesting because, and I won't divulge into it here, that to some degree relates to one of my fictional books I'm writing. Specifically for, if you saw my video where I mentioned how I'm becoming an author, the video of me telling stories from my travels so far in Laval for the 1 year anniversary of me having left Toronto, Ontario. Well, the story is a part of what I called, well, I abbreviated it, still keeping it a little anonymous, the EER series. So I'm finding that interesting, how that story of mine is to some degree paralleling reality. And interestingly enough, again, that specific book is set primarily in Laval, Quebec, and it has to do with a train system. But that's all I'm going to say right now. So, yeah, that's just interesting to me. So, I don't know if you've picked up on the change in, well, those who are residents of this area now, the subdivision, compared to up a ways. But, yeah, not, Christ alive. Ugh. Yeah, not. Oh my God. Not great. Alright. I don't know what you can see, but maybe if I maneuver it a bit this way. Nope, that made it worse. Well, Cardi B is all packed up and ready to go, minus their tire locks, but I'll tend to that when I get back here. And now, well, let's head up the mountain one final time and just take an overview of the city. caught in a hard place, my friend. Sorry, I'm not trying to cause you any harm. Yeah, you're very scared, really. Well, hopefully you're able to just dart somewhere over here and not be disturbed. Don't know what you're eating, but, well, enjoy your late night snack and the beautiful view to accompany it. Okay, there are many of you. Like, there are a lot of you just roaming about with everybody here. Wow, you are all very docile and very comfortable with human beings being close by you. Normally, you just wait in the woods till it was quieter and everyone was gone to start feasting. Huh. Nice. I'm glad that you're so trusting. And I'm glad that all the people here seem to be rather trusting.
زين.
على الصورة؟
ايه اقعد اقعد.
مش عايز.
يا عم تعالى اقعد والله المكان جميل. تعالى اقعد بس. اقعد ما تخافش. لا تحت مش بعيد. انا جاي اللي عايز يجي يشوف.
Despite all this is despite the atrociousness of all this, the terrible reasons why it was all built, well, it is a sight to behold. That much is very clear. Someone's flying an RC drone above. So, finally, as I said I would do in the last two videos, that didn't end up happening, and then ended up deciding that yes, I will absolutely talk about it in this video, the fact of me losing my virginity, having my first sexual experience with another person, physically, that is, other than, other than interactions I've had in terms of lap dances at strip clubs and parasocial pornographic interactions online, where I was physically intensely intimate with another person. So, I'll state right now, if you want further amount of context to this, go watch Exploring Montreal Part 10. Because much of it probably will not make sense without my showcasing of my little excursions in that video. But so, anyway, a few days ago, when I went down into the Griffintown borough in southern Montreal to do some filming, when I was headed back into the downtown area afterwards, I decided I wanted to try and visit this orgasmic massage parlor that I had noticed was established in a specific area and along Rue St. Catherine. And I figured, well, seeing as I would have had to pass through the downtown area to come back to the mountain to sleep anyway, that'd be an opportune time to do so. And in trying to find it, I got lost in the downtown area. I went from the eastern end of St. Catherine to the central western end, up to McGill University, then to almost near Westmount, like the western half of the Westmount district, and then back, and then finally was able to find it, and it was on a block, an intersection on St. Catherine that I had literally missed for just by one street over when I was entering the downtown area from Griffintown. So anyway, I went in, as you will have seen in the footage, and well, first actually I went to the downstairs area because the business had an upper level and a lower basement level. And I talked to the receptionist there, asked him a few questions about the place, what exactly what type of sex work it provided, and they told me, and I was correct in my initial assumptions that it was a sexual massage parlor, and they told me there was absolutely no difference between the upstairs and the downstairs in terms of decor or activities and price. The only difference was that they have jacuzzis in the lower level for, I guess, some amount of hot tub experience. And so I ended up going to the upstairs level just because I thought, oh, why not? Because I was curious to check out up there as well, even though there wasn't much difference, as they were right. And also the receptionist told me the prices, and as I said in the video, incredibly expensive. So for a half-an-hour session with one of the masseuses, it was $150, and for an hour it was $300. I believe then maybe for maybe like 45 to 50 minutes would have been $200. So that startled me. But I ultimately decided, you know what, I'd like to try and experience it and explore. So I went with a half-an-hour session, obviously. So I went upstairs, and I met with the managing supervisor, I guess, at the time. Maybe even they might have been the owner as well. From how they were talking, they were very egotistical, very stern, very domineering. Well, not excessively, but regardless. More blunt. And, well, if you couldn't tell in the video, I was rather uncomfortable talking to said individual. But anyway, so I paid the fee, and something that I like about, okay, you know what, I'll detail that in a second. So anyway, after I paid the fee, they led me to a room where they said, okay, you just sit here and wait, and the girls will come in and greet you. And they told me then you have to pick one. And I thought, oh, okay. I don't like that wording at all. I don't know if you could tell in the video, but I know it's terrible practice in the sex work industry in that regard, in regards to places such as strip clubs, prostitutes, establishments, places that it's legal, and say orgasmic massage parlor. I don't like that wording. Anyway, so I sat and waited, and then very quickly 4 women came in, greeted me, and I mean, if you heard in the audio from the recording, very quickly, I mean, like, actually, like, hi, bye. Nice to meet you, bye. That was all the communicative interaction we had whilst I was sitting there. And then once that happened, the supervisor came back in and said, which lady? And I told him, well, that was rather quick. That was rather fast. Like, I didn't even really have, even just going on a name basis, I really didn't have much time to, you know, learn their names. Anyway, so then they said, okay, just come here. This is, well, I'm not gonna say their names here, I censored it in the video. This is person, and person. And then I just hesitantly said, okay, I guess this person here. And they said, okay, and they told the masseuse that I just wanted to use the washroom, which they led me to, and I did that to, 1, turn off my camera, 2, wash up a bit, wash my hands, my face, things in regard. But anyway, so I'll state this, before continuing, I'll state this about the business. I obviously do not like how it was operated in terms of capitalist, monopolistic power dynamic, a very much hedonistic objectification of the workers, very much I hated the alright, we got a business to run here, people mentality that clearly the supervisor and potential owner had. I hate that. But I will state one genuinely good thing that the establishment had as a policy is that I don't know if you could see it in the footage when I was in the room. They had a showering station. And then, so when I went back to the room to wait for the masseuse, after I went to the washroom, the supervisor came in and told me, okay, so what you do is you get naked, you have a shower, soap is provided, and shampoo, and then you just lie down on the bed. And I thought, oh, okay, that's fantastic, actually. And so I did. I had and there was no charge for the shower, so I had a free shower. So, on the one hand, in terms of sanitary conditions, that's fantastic. They actually, in terms of policy enforcement, demanded that all customers showered before engaging sexually with the masseuses, to obviously protect against STDs, STIs, any other potential pathogens that aren't sexually transmitted in their entirety to the workers. So that was fantastic. And in terms of myself being unhoused, I got to have another shower. Now, a couple days prior, I had actually gone back via the subway train. I'd gone back to the Anjou borough of Montreal in, well, the eastern half, to get my braces repaired somewhat. I've been meaning to do that for a long while. Since, well, being in Laval, Quebec, because some of the metal wiring, the brackets were starting to bend and contort, and the bands had all broken off, which I thankfully was able to get done. I was charged for that, but a lesser price than normally would be for most out-of-province patients, as they knew of my situation, as I told them about it. And then while I was there, I went to the Anjou Community Center, and thankfully they had a showering station in their locker room as well, so I was able to have a shower there too, a couple days before this. So and then I had this one in the massage parlor, so that was nice. And then whilst I was having a shower, the masseuse came in and said, "Hey," and I said, "Hi," and I just sort of apologized because I'm sorry, I guess, for how quickly I just chose you. It was a very quick introduction. I didn't, was a little unfamiliar with the policies. No one really told me, and they're like, "Yeah, it's all right. It's pretty quick. It goes very fast." And they told me, "Okay, so I'm also just going to have a quick shower before we get started." And apparently that was also demanded of the workers, that they shower too before the session. So that was also good practice of hygiene, as far as I'm concerned. And then, so once they were done, they said, "Okay, so you just lay down on your stomach, and I apply hot oil." I don't know what essential oils they used, and some amount of I think it was hot wax, not entirely some kind of wax or lotion that was warm. And then I turn you over and we get more physical, and then I provide you the happy ending, as it's known in the industry, at the end. So we did so. And yeah. Now, during all of it, I wish I had said a little more, because I was, again, because of the quickness, because of the speediness of it, it was very awkward. Okay, the masseuse was an incredibly nice person in terms of the interactions, the short interaction we had. And they were a very, I will say, genuine person, it seemed. But I'll talk more about that in a second. But, so, I didn't say much, other than, I just made 2 comments. One was asking again what their name was, as I had forgotten, and then if they did this as their main job, and they just said no, they have another job. And so anyway, I was also stiff as a board, not just in terms of, well, my crotch. I mean, I was kind of just lying there, just still, as they were more so gyrating on me. That was somewhat awkward. But regardless, then we concluded, and they cleaned me off, and I helped out with that as well, I guess what way I could. Yeah, and then they said that they were just going to have a quick shower again first to clean up, and then it would be my turn to have a shower. So, yeah. And as I was showering, I tried inquiring a bit more into them as a person. I asked, if out of curiosity, if you don't mind me asking, what is your day job, other than this? And they more so said, I don't mix my personal life with this work. And then I just didn't press that and said, oh, okay, I understand. And then I asked, do you enjoy doing this work? And they said, yeah, I enjoy it. It has its moments, its ups and downs, as expected. And then I asked, are the clientele that you usually see more respectful to you? And they said, yeah, most often the clients who come in are they're respectful. They don't push any major boundaries. There have been some bad characters, but for the most part it's been fine. And then I asked them a bit more about the actual business itself. I said I didn't know until recently that this business was here, this type of parlor. I didn't even know that it was legal in province. I hadn't. It seems like you guys are also the only one in the city. And they told me, yeah, right now we practically are. There used to be a lot more before the COVID-19 pandemic and the major lockdowns, but well, during that time, a lot of the other parlors along the same road, Rue St. Catherine, suffered greatly. They didn't see much activity. Obviously, they get a lot of revenue from tourism, and so they tanked, but they survived, and they've been doing pretty well. And they told me in that regard as well that most often it's the tourists who come here to experience it. It's not really most of the locals to this area of the downtown, but there are a few who we know that sometimes visit. Not any sort of like regulars though. So that was all interesting to learn. And afterwards, once I got redressed, they led me out and just said, have a good night. And I wish them a good night as well. And, oh yes, forgot to mention, in terms of the fee, so how they divided it, the supervisor divided it, was that in terms of the $150 I paid, $80 of it went to the masseuse, and the rest went to the reception, probably them, the owner. And I thought, okay, that's at least better distribution to your employees than most establishments. That's it, and it's based upon how long the session is, how long you pay. So I don't know what it is for the $200, $300 one, the division for it, but for the $150, $80 goes to the worker. Okay, let me see if I can do the math here. If my dyscalculia doesn't kick in. 100. So about $35 goes to the owner, if my calculations were correct there. So that's at least some amount of a more communistic method, slightly, but anyway, in terms, so after that I left and I went back towards the mountain for the night, and I slept very well. The massage itself was fantastic. It was actual. They were actually a fantastic masseuse as well, and I felt very loose after that. But so anyway, in regards to the experience itself, I mentioned in the video when I had come back when I went back to Griffintown in the next portion of the video to film during the day, that as far as I'm concerned, considering that was my first immediate very physically intimate interaction with someone else. So technically losing my virginity, no intercourse was involved. It was just purely limb related. And, well, body gyration related. I don't know the sexological term for that. I should look that up. As far as I'm concerned, it went fantastically. It went exactly how I expected it. In fact, in recent times, in terms of relation to my theory of the 5 inherent human desires and conscious fulfillment leading to subconscious gratification of, well, said subconscious desires which act as some form of unconscious expectations, I can safely say it was one of the most fulfilling moments I've had for something, for an interaction that I've engaged with in recent, not just recent times, recent years. Recent years. It wasn't anything, well, it was euphoric. It wasn't anything overzealous, mind-blowing, incredible, beyond words feeling. It wasn't this disappointing, I was expecting more, underwhelming connection we had. Because there was connection, as far as I'm concerned. Not on a romantic level, no. But, well, on a sexual level, yes. And you might be thinking, well, they were probably just putting up a front more so because of pleasing the customer. No. I could tell with this person, they weren't. They clearly, now, yes. As far as I'm concerned, what I observed of their demeanor, some of their seemingly subtle dispositions to the job they were doing, could there have been some amount of sexual traumatization in relation to why they went towards the work? Yeah, could be. Could be some amount. Could there be financial desperation involved in there? Yep. Most likely is. But even in that, there was still clearly an amount of care and compassion from the masseuse, who clearly enjoyed the interaction for both them, tried to at the very least, for both themselves and for me. As they should. That's pro-socialization. That's sexual connectivity. Even if I don't agree with every single ideal as to why they were engaging with me, some could be very abhorrent moral reasons as to why. That does not mean, okay, if you know me by now, you know my thoughts on sex work in its innate form. I do not think it's detrimental in its innate form at all. I think it's beneficial. In relation to my theory of connective sexual empathy, my theory of ethical sexual sensualism and critical thought, all this. It's not inherently detrimental. The societal hedonistic sexual predatory obsession that has plagued and infected both the sex work community and the LGBTQ plus, sadly, because of years of right-wing sexual oppression and stigmatization. It sadly festered a terrible moral value. But in this regard, this was still an incredible activity I shared between this person and myself, as far as I'm concerned. And if any of you out there are thinking, well, Cam, like, this must have affected you a lot more than just, well, it was nice, it was pleasant, well, shouldn't you be feeling like overjoyed by this? Shouldn't you be feeling like, doesn't it feel a bit more invigorating to have experienced this for the first time? No. No. And not in some sort of emotionally devoid, detached, mentally detached sense. No. It felt fantastic, emotionally and physically. It was satisfying enough. If you actually think that I should be experiencing that, or it's unusual, well, in relation to societal trauma, it is unusual, sadly, for most people to hold the opinion that I am right now. But as far as I'm concerned, if you feel that, then that's proving my point. That this over dramatization of sex, how it's from both ends. Either it's this wholly divine experience, or it's this minute, uninteresting, unintelligent interaction. With so many people, there's nowhere in between. And it was, yeah, I have no other words to describe it. It was exactly how I expected it. In fact, actually, I was a little nervous. I was nervous about, even with me having started becoming a sensualistic pornographer, starting my pornographic career, and earlier on choosing to go into the field of sex work, having decided on wanting to pursue that as a career path earlier on in my life, and having done a lot of sexological research, especially now with my implementations, theoretical work in regards to sexology for my neuroscience work. Even then, I was nervous that maybe whenever my first time happened, I would accidentally hurt them in a way that I didn't want to, or cause some major kerfuffle. And I knew that I'd make mistakes, absolutely. Well, I mean, yeah, I did think I made mistakes during this experience, but that's gonna happen. If anyone goes into their first sexual interaction thinking that they're going to either disgust their partners terribly or be some perfectionist at sexual intercourse, well, that's a very detrimental mindset. You're going to be neither. Okay, well, okay. For the discuss part, okay, yeah, that is plausible. Okay, that is, if you were to commit an abhorrent sexual act, maliciously or unintentionally. Okay, yeah, that one could. Most likely, it's not going to. Most likely. Not gonna happen. But in terms of the perfectionist part, well, then you're a narcissist. I'm sorry, I don't know what else to tell you. And in this regard, here's another bit I want to just quickly address. It relates to something I talked about earlier, actually, in relation to, well, you can relate it to the atrocities committed at Polytech Montreal. When I left the massage parlor, there was a gaggle of, sound like maybe Western Americans, maybe Californians, who were more masculine presenting, all of them, and were cackling and giggling away and contemplating going into the parlor, and they were being like, no, bro, you gotta do it on your birthday, man. Your birthday's coming up, man. You gotta be ready for it. You gotta get drunk first. You gotta do that. It's gonna be a wild ride. You gotta wait. It has to be like this fucking lit experience. I don't want to imitate the stupidity. I'm not making fun of their vernacular, their linguistic slang that they're using. I'm making fun of the attitude that they had. They were very much over-sexualizing, over-fetishizing of this patriarchal consumerist mindset. It was disgusting. And that's okay. In relation to two ends here of oppression, sexist oppression, as far as I'm concerned, sexism, in terms of, in relation to more so cisgenderism, but even those of the other genders. In terms of patriarchy and matriarchy. Two terrible things. For patriarchy, I want to state I am so sick and tired of hearing men talk about women's bodies as if they are some godly, unknowable mystery that is one of the grandiose questions of the universe and life as a whole. I am so sick of hearing it. It's so over-exotifying, it's dehumanizing, it's pedestaling beyond belief, it's portraying women as being inhuman. Women are not this insulistic idea. Women are not some foreign entity that is unknowable. They are just as human as anyone else, with a complex array of emotional processes, and in terms of sexual interactions, diverse, but ultimately, as far as I'm concerned, in pro-socialization and in relation to interactive loneliness, and in a detrimental sense, traumatization, either or. It's the same as men's. It's the same as anyone else's. And in relation to matriarchy, I am so sick and tired of hearing women view men as being completely, subtly most often, completely incompetent in any sort of romantic or sexual dynamic, where, or viewing what have been traditionally associated, depending on the cultural background, of as being more masculine traits, as being inherently destructive, which is not true either, at all. This idea that men are expected to perform and appease a specific sexually gratifying performance is terrible. And it's the same for patriarchal stances, where women are expected to perform sexually in an array of unrealistic ways. It's the same. But then the extreme of thinking that men are incapable of having genuinely pleasing and emotionally gratifying sexual interactions with women is also untrue, and it's also dehumanizing. So, okay. I'll leave this with that, because I've literally been ranting for nearly an hour sitting here. Way longer than I intended. I wanted to say more. But you know what? I think that's enough for now. So, my first physically intimate moment that I had, losing my virginity, it was incredible. And it went exactly as I thought it would. And it was realistic. Okay, finally made it. Kama Sutra Club, which, from what I've been able to see of the inside online, seems to be a Northern Indian / Kashmiri / Pakistani culturally themed strip club, which, well, those aren't, I've never heard of a club being culturally representative of those ethnic and national backgrounds in North America at all. At least many well-known clubs. But this is a fairly known one here in the city. So, let's have one more adventure in Montreal, shall we?
I thought you left it.
Yeah. With Riley. I was hanging out with Riley. She's very nice. He'll be your financial planner now, don't worry. Brad. He always just went the opposite way.
Hey, when you saw someone in your back, was it wearing that black?
What? Oh, I'm waiting for Thomas.
I gotta get rid of this phony money.
What the corner store?
Oh, the idea.
No, ticket for your back.
On my ticket.
Only back left. Taxis. Chicago taxis.
Is it shit? Is it piss? Nope. It's vomit. Or it appears to be a vomit-like substance, at least. It smells like a combination of all three. And I placed one of Cardi B's tire locks right next to it. Oh, I love this fucking city. Okay. Here we are. The connecting bridge. And I've come to the final boss fight of this putrid ass city. Jaywalking and hoping that they don't care enough to give me a ticket. Well, that didn't end up being a viable option. I ended up having to go all the way around that park. You will have seen in the clips before this. Because, yeah, the police were right there. No way they were just gonna ignore me going across the very busy road, considering they were staring directly at me. And I also ended up asking them if there was a way around here. And they just told me, nope, you gotta go around. Sorry. And once you know it, once I get all the way around, which took me about maybe like 17, 18 minutes, they're gone. So, great, but, oh well. I'm off. say that Montreal is definitely the air traffic capital of Canada. I should have mentioned in some of the other videos. From what I observed being closer to the downtown area, so being around and having gone through southern Montreal, the slew of airplanes isn't as visible from the southern face or any portion of the city behind the southern face of the mountain. But either way, for the rest of the city, well, that I've been to, the aircrafts are just clearly visible throughout the skies all around. Now, we bid Montreal adieu. Cardi. Now we'll see what the city of Longueuil holds for us. What song shall we sing to part ways with this putrid, dumpy wasteland of a metropolitan area? Okay, I'm sorry. There were many amazing things about Montreal. Yet, sadly, there were, as always seems to be so far, many more depravities. And I'm sure I will find a noticeable amount here in Longueuil as well. But anyway, let's get on with ending this. This video's gone on long enough. Let's see. This is it. Well, this one's been stuck in my head for a little while, so why not? We'll meet again. Don't know where, don't know when, but I know we'll meet again some sunny day. Keep smiling through, just like you always do, till the blue skies drive the dark clouds far away. So will you please say hello to the folks that I know? Tell them I won't be long. They'll be happy to know that as you saw me go, I was singing this song. We'll meet again. Don't know where, don't know when, but I know we'll meet again some sunny day. God, that sounded horrible. My throat is dry right now, so I'm sure that contributed to the screeching of my vocal cords. But oh well, that'll do it. Mont-Royal V. So long T. Goodbye, Jay. Happy trails, Camden.